Dumb Husky and his white cat SHIZUN. Extra chapters. SHIZUN'S birthday. Fighting for affection, 7. Upon the prospect of meeting a beauty, Mei Hangxiu tended to his appearance. He brushed off the dust on his clothes, raised his hand to tidy up his somewhat messy blonde hair and pulled it in a neat ponytail behind him. After making sure that his appearance was all in order, he cautiously walked towards the miserable person lying on the ground in the distance. It was not that Mei Hangxiu was too calm about being sent to an unfamiliar place that he was so nonchalant and could care about whether his clothes were wrinkled, whether his hair was messy or whether the other person was beautiful. It was because he knew that Mo Ran was now under the control of Chu Wanning, so it was impossible for him to do anything outrageous. Moreover, he could not sense any malicious intent or murderous aura in this place. There was only that miserable beauty laying on the ground. As he came closer and clearly saw the face of the beauty, his eyes couldn't help but widen. No matter how calm or indifferent he was, Mei Hangxiu couldn't help but be taken aback as he hesitantly called, "Sect leader Zhang." Jiangshi was tightly bound like a pig and was frowning so hard. In Mo Ran's excitement upon capturing him, he had forgotten to undo the spell to unbind the sect leader when he threw him inside the box. Mei Hangxiu, who had been dumbfounded for a moment, quickly walked over and knelt down to check on Jiangshi's condition. Taxi and Junsvine have the spell that the more the one it bound struggled, the tighter it gets. Jiangshi was a proud person and therefore refused to suffer such humiliation, so from the beginning, he had been trying to break free from the vines, which only resulted into it coiling tighter around him. Mei Hangxiu even noticed the skin of his wrists that was tied back were all worn and have deep red marks in them. Sect leader Zhang? What was even worse was that Jiangshi was ill and had missed taking his medication when he was abducted, so by this time, he had already passed out. Mei Hangxiu had called him several times, but he didn't give any indication that he would wake up anytime soon. Mei Hangxiu couldn't help feeling frustrated. "Yeah. When I went out, I forgot to check my horoscope for the day. I have no idea that I would encounter such misfortune." To be honest, Mei Hangxiu was not very fond of Jiangshi. In fact, he had been downright hostile to him that time at the foot of Shisheng Peak when Jiangshi led those who condemned the Shisheng Peak sect. Mei Hangxiu was an easygoing and flippant person. He could not understand Jiangshi's pursuit of powers, let alone the way he acted when he became the leader of the 10 foremost cultivation sects. Moreover, Xuemeng and Jiangshi have always been at odds with each other. Their relationship was inexplicably volatile. Since he was a lot closer to Xuemeng, it was an additional reason why he didn't like Jiangshi much. Otherwise, how could a carefree person like him could be so cold towards the richest and highest ranked person in the cultivation world? Mei Hangxiu could feel a headache coming. Why did Jiangshi fall unconscious? There was no way out of it. There was nobody else here other than the two of them, so he's the only one who could take care of him. Mei Hangxiu raised his hands and probed Jiangshi's neck to check for his pulse and found that it was erratic. His heartbeat was not normal, and the bit of skin he touched was fiercely burning. Mei Hangxiu felt his heart lurched as he frantically tried to wake the other man again. "Wake up. Sect leader Zhang, you've got to wake up." However, Jiangshi remained unconscious. Mei Hangxiu was slowly losing hope, so he had to sit down and took his wrist to transfer some of his spiritual energy the way they were taught at Kunlun Taxiu Palace. Upon doing so, Mei Hangxiu felt the chaotic qi running through Jiangshi's meridians. Sect leader Zhang was seriously injured during the world calamity. Although he barely made it through with his life intact, his body would never be the same. At least, that's what Mei Hangxiu thought. Fortunately, Mei Hangxiu's spiritual essence was that of water, the same as Jiangshi, and thus after lending him some of his spiritual energy, the fever that was burning through his veins slowed down a little. A frown appeared on Jiangshi's forehead. His eyelashes trembled slightly until he finally managed to slowly open his apricot eyes. His eyes seemed to be out of focus, so he closed them once again, looking as if he was suppressing something. After a while, he half opened his eyes and said in a hoarse, tired voice, "Medicine." Mei Hangxiu said helplessly, I don't have any medicine. Hearing another person's voice, Zhang Shi, who was still in daze, suddenly came to his senses. He fully opened his eyes and asked between hoarse coughs, You? Why did you? Who do you think am I? When Mei Hangxiu asked this question, he realized something. He looked at Zhang Shi's appearance and the tone of his voice when he had just woken up. He would bet 9 times out of 10 that he probably thought that he was still back in Gai Yuye sect. I thought you were. Zhang Shi's dry and pale lips moved, trying to say something, but his sickness flared up, forcing him to shiver slightly as cold sweat soaked through his inner robes. He bit his lower lips, obviously trying to suppress something. Mei Hangxiu knew that this man was proud and arrogant, someone who definitely hated to be in such compromising position. It must be very uncomfortable for him to look like this in front of someone he considered his junior. Although Mei Hangxiu did not like him, he did not really hate him. Besides, Mei Hangxiu has always been kind-hearted and did not like to see someone suffering, especially if that someone was beautiful. Zhang Shi might not appreciate it, but beauty is beauty. Mei Hangxiu sighed and asked, Sect Leader Zhang, can you sit up? Are you feeling cold? Is there a way to make you feel more comfortable? Mei Hangxiu wanted to help in any way he can. Unexpectedly, before he could even touch Zhang Shi's shoulder, Zhang Shi violently jerked away from him. Zhang Shi gasped and raised his gaze up once again. Those apricot eyes were bright and moist, looking very much like a beast trapped in a cage, pained and vigilant. He said hoarsely, Don't touch me. Get away from me, about 10 feet away. No, the farther the better. Mei Hangxiu said quietly, but you are sick. Zhang Shi's forehead was wet and sweaty, the veins on his neck was beating rapidly as he said angrily, Do you have any medicine? No. Then why aren't you looking for one yet? Mei Hangxiu didn't know what to say. He thought Zhang Shi was really a different breed of flower. One time he would talk rationally, the next second he would not. It was like talking to Xue Meng, one moment he was very fierce, the next moment he was not. He was really something else. Afterwards, the atmosphere between Mei Hangxiu and Zhang Shi has gone very stiff. On the roof of a cottage, the tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster, was hiding under the lotus leaves, secretly watching the two cultivators. Oh, this is good. There were 2 highest level to watch. It needed to watch quietly to see if they would fight or not. It had to stay in the dark. As long as it is silent, no one can find it. Ha ha ha. There was still time. It was 4 hours to go before Chu Wanning's birthday. Xue Meng was sitting at the loyalty hall as he stared at his unexpected guest. What do you mean? I don't understand you. Taxian Jun had pulled out his willow vine, which he used to break into the Dobeo manor, where he thought he could easily pick up some cheap passengers. However, when he rushed over, he found that the manor was empty of its manor master, as Ma Yun was currently out and about. Taxian Jun pondered for a moment and thought about Xue Meng, who was also in the highest level list. When it comes to Xue Meng, it would be better to use deception than to outright abduct him. And so, he turned around and came to the Shi Sheng Peak. Xue Meng was currently staring at him and asked, Why would you want to invite me to play inside that box? What's wrong with you? I have my hands full. How can I find the time to play with you? Taxian Jun tried to entice his interest by saying, This venerable one guaranteed that once you're in, you'll find plenty of pleasant surprises. Xue Meng had plenty of paperworks and therefore, was not in a very pleasant mood. Mo Ran, are you sick in the... Before he could say head, Xue Meng had a sudden realization, oh. His birthday was approaching. Didn't Mo Ran just ask him what gift he would like before? So, this tattered box was his birthday gift? Xue Meng looked down at the wooden box that was placed on the table between them, which initially made him angry. Mo Ran said that upon entering it, he will be in for plenty of surprises. What else could it be but his birthday gift? Instead of being thankful, he had been hostile to Mo Ran when he came. With this in mind, Xuemeng could not help felt contrite and embarrassed. Ahem. He coughed softly and said, "Isn't it a bit early? You want it in the morning?" Taxian Jun asked, stunned as he didn't know what did he meant by that. He nonetheless responded kindly and quickly, "No need to wait. The sooner the better. Get in now." Xuemeng opened and closed his mouth and squinted at the box secretly. He wanted to refuse again, but he couldn't help his strong curiosity. It's just for some reason, he felt some vague sense of hesitation. Unable to restrain his curiosity though, Xuemeng said with a smile, "Then this sect leader will go in." "Thank you Tang Ji." Taxian Jun couldn't understand what's up with Xuemeng, but as long as he went in, it was all good. Thus, he immediately smiled back and said, "You're welcome. Go on please." With that, Xuemeng disappeared amidst the golden light that came from the box as Taxian Jun clicked the lid of the box close. He happily exclaimed, "Third one." In just a few hours, he had managed to catch 3 highest level people, Jiangxi, Mei Hangxiu and Xuemeng, and Taxian Jun was not done yet. There's still some time to go, he could still catch some more. Elder Xianji and Elder Tanlang of Shisheng Peak was also in the list of highest level people. These two couldn't be let go either. Fueled by such aspirations, Taxian Jun gathered the wooden box and hid it again within his sleeves. He put his cloak back and headed to the residences of the sect clan elders. Meanwhile, inside the box of thoughts, Xuemeng couldn't believe at what he was seeing in front of him: the golden lily pond, the field of musical flowers and the flowering rain cloud. Amidst the wonderful scenery, he could not shake the vision of the 2 people who was in the courtyard as well. Mei Hangxiu, the Dashik Siang of Kunlun Taxiu Palace, who was half kneeling in front of Zhang Yuchen, sect leader of Gaiyuye, who was frowning as he talked back. "Jiangxi." Xuemeng took a calming breath. Did Mei Hangxiu tie up Jiangxi like that? Jiangxi looked like someone who had been heavily bullied. His face was flushed, his forehead was messy, his cheeks were sweaty and his eyes were red. "That's... what the hell was this?" Xuemeng suddenly shouted, "Mei Hangxiu! What are you doing?" Mei Hangxiu looked towards him in a daze. Before he knew it, Xuemeng had already strode over to where he was and he could feel Xuemeng's nose against his. He was so surprised that he hardly felt Xuemeng dragged him by his lapels from where he was half kneeling. Xuemeng pointed at Jiangxi with another finger as he angrily asked Mei Hangxiu, "Who made you do this? Let him go now." Mei Hangxiu. "Wait, sect leader Xue. This is not. Although Zhang Yuchen is not a decent human being, it's not up to you to straighten him up. Why did you tie him up like this?" Mei Hangxiu was so shocked for a moment before realization came over him. He couldn't help laughing as he pulled his sleeves back. "Xueziming. You are really... Well, what do you think I was doing with him?" Xuemeng retorted angrily, "How should I know what you were intending to do when you tied him up? I'm not a pervert like you. And why aren't you letting him go yet?" Mei Hangxiu, who was scolded and called a pervert out of nowhere, felt very wronged. This Dashik Sian wanted to let him go. The problem was, he was tied with Taxian Jun's holy weapon. How in the world could I untie him? While Xuemeng and Mei Hangxiu were arguing with each other, Jiangxi just closed his eyes, not wanting to look at them any longer. Suddenly, they heard noises coming just outside the courtyard. Xuemeng turned his head and was shocked once again. Elder Xianji, Elder Tanlang. It was indeed Elder Xianji with a dazed expression and the fuming Elder Tanlang who had appeared inside the box of thoughts. "How did you get in?" Elder Tanlang angrily said, "It's that Mo Ran." Without even saying anything, he took out that old box and pressed it on top of both of our heads. "I'm going to kill him." Xianji sighed, "Before we knew it, we were already here." Xuemeng. Elder Xianji looked around and asked, "Where is this?" Sect leader, why are you here as well? And head disciple Mei and. Seeing the tied-up Zhangxi, Elder Xianji's expression changed as he exclaimed in surprise, Sect leader Zhang. That's right. Over there was the leader of the cultivation world all tied up in such a humiliating way and gracelessly thrown over the ground. There were more people around from the Shisheng Peak. What could be done with this account? Mei Hangxiu, who was the other person not from Shisheng Peak, rubbed his nose and said, I was brought here by Mo Xiang. Although sect leader Zhang refused to tell me anything, I assume that he was brought here by Mo Xiang as well. Ah, that's right, he suddenly looked at Elder Tanlang and said, the esteemed elder is the top healer in Shisheng Peak, right? Elder Tanlang said briskly, what's the matter? Mei Hangxiu said, sect leader Zhang seems to be in a bad condition. I am no healer and thus can only provide limited relief. Can you please have a look at him? Unexpectedly, Zhangxi's pale face turned to him and immediately said, no need. But you. I just need more time to meditate. Zhangxi closed his eyes, swallowed slightly and slowly breathed in the wet air. I'll be fine by myself. There's no need for anyone to worry about me. Since Zhangxi persisted this much and refused to let anyone touch him, others had no choice but to let it go. Mei Hangxiu and Xuemeng walked through the world inside the box of thoughts. Mei Hangxiu asked, why did you come in here? Xuemeng said, because this is Mo Ran's birthday gift to me. Mei Hangxiu was surprised, birthday gift? But it isn't your birthday yet. He said it's an early present. Xuemeng, looking at the landscape and cottage. Since Elder Xianji and Elder Tanlang came in, there suddenly appeared stars shining all over the sky. Although it was still dusk, this starry night sky seemed to be created from magic. In the field, there are also many fragrant flowers, sweet and pleasant and unlike any flower that could be found in the mundane world. The place is a good place. Xuemeng said, but I don't understand why he caught all of you. Mei Hangxiu thought for a moment, maybe because he wanted you to have a lively birthday celebration. Xuemeng got tired of walking and sat on the ridges of the fields and watched the rolling golden wheat waves, the flying willow catkins and the vast sky. Xue Zhenyang started the sect from the scratch. When he was very young, he was embarrassed by how shabby Shisheng Peak was. However, his parents never failed to celebrate his birthday. Almost every year, he was surrounded by praise, favor, and congratulations. Xue Zhenyang would always give him the best things he could. Madame Wang would cook him a bowl of longevity noodles full of color, fragrance, and flavor. He spent more than 20 years like that, infinitely content and happy. Until he lost his parents. For a long time, Xue Zhenyang and Wang Chuqing were like two mountains surrounding Xuemeng, shielding him from the horrors of life and the world, so much so that he had maintained his fearless innocence and endless brilliance. After they left, Xuemeng's heart lost its shelter and was subjected to pain, cruelty and sufferings. All of a sudden, he understood how it was to be bereft and how to be helpless and how it was to be miserable. However, because of their unreserved love, Xuemeng may have grown up overconfident and arrogant, but he had always had a heart of gold. The active and vigorous body of the young phoenix was filled with kindness, gentleness, and compassion which he got from Wang Chuqing, as well as the integrity, strength and magnanimity belonging to Xue Zhenyang. This is the fire they left in Shu which paved the road of the Shisheng Peak sect. Mei Hangxiu walked up to him and sat down. The wind blew through his long, pale blonde hair. He pushed it to his ear and turned to Xuemeng and said, in that case, I wish you a happy birthday in advance. Xuemeng crushed the earth with his toes meaninglessly and hummed, don't care. Mo Xiang is very careful to make such a beautiful world for you. Mei Hangxiu's arms stretched back and a line of geese flew across the sky. He laughed. If I didn't know he was anything but a brother to you, I would think you were his sweetheart. He took so much trouble to prepare such gift to surprise you. Xuemeng hummed again, he even caught you to celebrate with me. I think it was a little scary. Mei Hangxiu didn't mind. He laughed and said, but he has prepared so well for a birthday surprise for you. It was much better than my brother who. Upon realizing that he was about to share too much, Mei Hangxiu immediately clamped his mouth shut. Xuemeng, the gift-taking maniac, immediately perked his ears and asked, was Mei Hanxue preparing a gift for me, too? Yes. That was terrible. He accidentally spilled it out. What was he preparing for me? I won't tell you. Xuemeng stared at him for a moment and soon realized that it was impossible to pull anything out of Mei Hangxiu's snowy mouth. He had to turn his face away sadly. He pretended that he was not that curious and looked at the scenery for a while instead. Mei Hangxiu then asked, I was wondering though. Why did Mo Xiang grab Zhang Yuchen inside the box as well? What is sect leader to you? Xuemeng stiffened for a moment and said, nothing. Nothing at all. What is Zhang Shi to him? He was indifferent and ungrateful. He could never compare to his father, Xue Zhenyang, nor can he match his mother. At that time, Elder Xianji called out to them from the far end of the courtyard. It seemed that Mo ran as caught another person and threw them inside the box as well. With that person's entry, a fairy mist floated around them. The diversion helped Xuemeng avoid an uncomfortable discussion about Zhangxi with Mei Hangxiu. He got up, dusted his robes and strode towards the courtyard. The evening breeze blew as the wheat waves toward him. He paused for a moment and suddenly felt a slight pinch in his heart. He felt that the breeze was like the hands of Madame Wang and Xue Zhenyang, gently touching his brows, his eyes, and his forehead. There will be no more birthday wishes from them. Xuemeng couldn't help looking down, his long eyelashes covered the gloom in his eyes. Mei Hangxiu walked up to him and asked with concern, what's wrong? Nothing. Xuemeng whispered. Then he thought that he at least had lived in such a warm home with a pair of parents who loved him and spoiled him. They have sheltered him from the rain for more than 20 years. They have loved him, respected him, and protected him every moment of every day. That he had spent so many unforgettable birthdays with them. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Extra chapters. Shizun's birthday. Fighting for affection, and. While Xuemeng was reminiscing about his parents, Chu Wanning was sneezing on Nanping Mountain. Sushi. There were only 2 hours left until his birthday. But Chu Wanning still haven't realized this. He and Mo Ran had only lived in seclusion on Nanping Mountain for 2 years, and the 2 lifetimes before, those years have not been very kind to him. For someone who was used to suffering then suddenly tasting the sweet life, he would always doubt its stability and would not get used to it easily. Opposite to Xuemeng, he was the kind of person who had never been pampered and spoiled before. Well, at least in the past, that is. It was late at night, in fact it would be midnight soon, but Mo Ran hasn't come back yet. Chu Wanning stood in front of the bamboo gate, wearing only his inner robes. He held Gaotu, then looked out of the courtyard for a long while but still did not see Mo Ran coming. In the evening, the air was a bit damp. He coughed a few times through his rolled hand and then frowned. The dog raised its head, rubbed against him and let out a whining sound. Chu Wanning looked down and asked, "Are you sleepy?" "Bow." He put it down and said, "Go back to the house and sleep. I'll wait a little longer." Whoop. The pagoda lanterns woven from bamboo sticks and covered with silk paper, sway gently under the eaves of the courtyard door. Bright yellow candle light spreads onto Chu Wanning's elegant and smooth face, shining glittery on his brows, eyes, and shoulders, sharpening his features and gentle demeanor. Gaotu went to the side by his robes and barked around him. "You don't want to go back?" "Wow." Chu Wanning then lifted it up again, pointing its small, wet, and cool black nose using the tip of his nose and said, "All right, then you can continue to wait with me." Whoop. However, that was not what Gaotu wanted to say. Chu Wanning was not very good with communicating with Gaotu. Compared to him, Taxian Jun and Gaotu quickly understood each other. Thus, he had to ponder for a while before he took a guess. Do you want me to go to bed and not stand here anymore? Bow. Gaotu was happy because the master finally understood what it meant. It wagged its tail and jumped in place. I want to wait a little longer. Wang wang wang. It's been a long time. Don't you want to go back in alone? Wang wang. Chu Wanning saw it shaking its head and tail and could not help but think of what Mo Ran said that day before he left, go to bed early, no need to wait up for me. Night does not end. Chu Wanning sighed, looking somewhat unhappy. Seeing Gaotu's earnest pleading, he finally looked back at the path up the hill, closed his hands behind the courtyard door and took Gaotu back into the house. He knew sleepiness won't come easy to him tonight. Chu Wanning left a lighted lamp to illuminate the way for Mo Ran. Then he curled up on the bed, closed his eyes and began to dream dimly. In spite of his usual calm and composed appearance, his body, which bore the souls and memories of 2 lifetimes, slept very uneasily. In the first few months of his retirement in Nanping Mountain, he would wake up almost every night. Sometimes, it was because he dreamed of the pale-faced Taxian Jun who was assassinated by Xuemeng in Wushan Hall amidst the ghostly and gloomy background of the thunderstorm raging outside the hall. Sometimes he would dream that he was outside the Tianyan pavilion with a kneeling Mo Ran, blood pouring out of his chest and asking him with a choke, "Shizun, have I paid off my debts? Have I been cleansed of my sins?" Sometimes, he would dream of the dead him, his corpse in Shisheng Peak at Red Lotus Pavilion. In his dream, Taxian Jun said to him, "Chu Wanning, this venerable one hates you very much." Sometimes he would dream of that night in Nanping Mountain. On that snowy night when Mo Ran said, "Wanning, I will always love you." After saying this, Mo Ran's heartbeat gradually slowed down until it finally ceased to beat anymore, leaving him with only sadness and despair. He could not forget the unspeakable feeling at that time. Every time he dreamed about it, he would wake up with unbearably grieving pain. He would be so dazed that he would even forget what date it was exactly, as his mind would be trapped in the past. Only when he repeatedly confirmed that the man sleeping next to him was still breathing and his heart was still beating would the pain gradually fade away. Sometimes, he would spend the latter half of the night no longer sleeping soundly but instead fighting the urge to repeatedly open his eyes to stare at the peacefully sleeping face of Mo Ran of the present time. Later that night, Mo Ran found him in this strange condition. That day, it was Taxian Jun's personality that was controlling Mo Ran's body. Taxian Jun was the lonely man who had wandered in the empty Wushan palace for many years. With a single glance, he could easily understand why Chu Wanning was suffering and could not sleep at night. So, Taxian Jun said nothing and just opened his arms to hold Chu Wanning tightly. Over the years, upon the sacrifice of flesh and blood, he could hear the strong heartbeat of the person he was holding between his powerful arms. It was all it took to dispel the nightmare. Taxian Jun kissed the top of his hair and coaxed him in a low voice. "It's all right, Wanning. It was all over." Chu Wanning did not say a word, his expression indifferent, probably as he did not want to lose any more face. But Taxian Jun could feel the wetness that seeped through his robes as warm tears was shed against his chest. The night was cold but his whole heart felt warm as it trembled fiercely. Great love and excitement engulfed his whole being and for a moment he didn't know what to do. He was used to doing things roughly and forcefully and still have difficulty controlling himself. Thus, he could only clumsily rub Chu Wanning's shoulders and back, put his lips against the top of his hair and ears and finally lowered down to kiss his cool lips. "Wanning, I will always love you," he murmured between kisses. He could feel the obvious trembling of the man who had experienced much cruelty in his hands. He could not help it. This time he would love him with the tenderness that he wasn't able to give him in the past. Wherein every day afterwards, no matter which consciousness was prevalent in the body, Mo Ran upon laying next to Chu Wanning's body will always say at least once, "Wanning, I will always love you," before going to sleep. Today's sweetness would slowly wash away the bitterness of the past. This sentence was also the reiteration of what Mo Ran had promised him on the day he died, a promise that he intended to keep. For the past 2 years, whenever Mo Ran went out alone for whatever reason, he would always come back before dark. It was because he knew that despite of Chu Wanning not saying a word about it, Chu Wanning did not like the cold nights at Nanping Mountain. Tonight was the first time that he came back late, though his brother-in-law, Gaotu, kept him company. For the first time since their retirement, Mo Ran did not go home before sunset. Chu Wanning kept a calm face and did not ask anything. However, he might have a blank face and not asking question, but it didn't mean that he wasn't hurting. That night, when he fell asleep, nightmares plagued him once again. He was back at that time again in Nanping Mountain on the day that Mo Ran died. He dreamed that no matter how hard he tried to wake him up, he remained asleep. The scar left by Tianyan Pavilion on his lover's chest is so fierce and shocking that whenever he looked at it, he could only choke and repeatedly called on his lover's name, Mo Ran. Mo Ran. While in the middle of such dreadful dream, it seemed as if someone suddenly took his hand and kissed it gently. The man said to him, "Shizun, it's all right. It's all over. It's all over." Chu Wanning felt that his eyelashes were moist when he woke up. He gave a low sigh and tried to calm his heart. He moved to go back to sleep, but suddenly found himself leaning against a familiar warm chest. He was startled as the blurriness of sleep disappeared. The wet curtain of his eyelashes suddenly lifted only for the pair of phoenix eyes to fell on a pair of purplish-black orbs. Mo Ran. He didn't know when exactly had Mo Ran returned and laid next to him, but he could still feel the dampness that the night dew left on his body. In order not to disturb his sleep, Mo Ran did not hold him as tightly as he normally would. He only carefully grasped his hand as he laid close to him. When Chu Wanning woke up, he raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Well, did this venerable one woke you up?" Chu Wanning thought that he wanted to apologize, but unexpectedly, Taxian Jun put his arm tightly around him and said, "Or were you already awake and just wanted this venerable one to hug you some more? Get out of here." Taxian Jun knew that he didn't have much time left today. He would pick a fight with Chu Wanning on some other day. This time though, after he hugged him, he went straight and leaned over Chu Wanning's ears and said with a deep smile, "Get up. This venerable has a surprise for you. If you beat me now, it will be too late." Chu Wanning was speechless. This man was getting bolder with each passing day. Chu Wanning had been woken up from a nightmare. At the beginning, his body felt heavy due to being emotional and the warmth from being hugged. At that moment though, his brows were scrunched and his eyes were still moist, not from lingering nightmare but because of sleepiness and annoyance. "Are you not planning to sleep at all tonight?" Taxian Jun replied, "No, there will be no sleeping tonight." Chu Wanning got angrier and said, "Why do you not want to sleep tonight?" Taxian Jun lifted his chin and caressed it carefully as his gaze wandered from his eyebrows to his slightly opened lips. The man in his arms obviously has a fierce demeanor and have his flaws, but for 2 lifetimes, the mere look of him was enough to arouse him and made him happy. Once upon a time, he refused to admit to this fact, but even back then he knew deep in his heart that Wanning was the only person who could ignite his passion in an instant. It was why he would always want to hold him, kiss him, make love to him. He enjoyed bullying him, but he knew how much that had hurt him. Nowadays, he felt that although the number of beautiful people in the world were as numerous as the clouds, all the clouds gathered were not enough to compare to the beauty of his Wanning. His Wanning even looked good when his murderous. Hell, he looked exceptionally good when he was furious. Taxian Jun laughed and said, "There's so many things one can do if they don't sleep in the middle of the night. Haven't this venerable one shown you before?" Chu Wanning. Seeing that he was sleepy, angry, and helpless, Taxian Jun's heart skipped a beat and couldn't help but dipped his head to kiss him. Mo Ran dash. Just kidding. After the kiss, Taxian Jun touched the tip of his nose intimately. The time for this venerable one is up for today, so this venerable will let you owe him one to be paid back after 3 days' time. Chu Wanning. Tonight the only thing that this venerable one want to say is. Taxian Jun paused for a moment, then he smiled with his dimples deep on the side of his cheek, making him look partly cheeky and partly embarrassed as he continued, "Happy birthday, Wanning." Chu Wanning was suddenly stunned. At that time, he could hear the ringing of the distant temple bells. It was midnight. It was the end of the day. And the beginning of another year for Chu Wanning. Mo Ran pupil still held the arrogance of Taxian Jun, but he remained quiet as it changed into the gentleness of Grandmaster Mo. Grandmaster Mo was a little dazed as he tried to assimilate any memory of yesterday that fate would deem him to retain, but alas, he couldn't recall what he had done under Taxian Jun's personality. However, upon seeing that the one in front of him was the love of his life, his heart became full of joy as he leaned his forehead against Chu Wanning and whispered, "Wanning. Yes. Happy birthday." After a moment he continued, "I have prepared a gift for you." He had planned to complete the unfinished cottage up come daytime tomorrow and then bring Chu Wanning inside the box of thoughts. But he did not think that when he switched back, Chu Wanning had not fallen asleep yet, nor did he think that he would naturally say the sentence. He felt an overwhelming love for Chu Wanning that for a moment, he couldn't bear to contain it inside at all. He had already lived 2 lifetimes and had married him twice, once publicly and once privately. He had been with him for 8 years in his other life and 2 years in this current life. But at this moment, he felt like a young man who for the first time was proving his love by offering his treasures to his beloved. He was feeling impatient, he even felt that his sweaty fingertips were trembling slightly. I haven't finished all of it yet, but I would like for you have a look at it now." Chu Wanning had finally realized that today was indeed his birthday. So, it turned out the Mo Ran was busy today and didn't go home before sundown because he was preparing his birthday gift. Upon clearing this confusion, he felt amused and a bit guilty. He couldn't help raising his hand and holding his Mo Ran's face, his heart filled with tenderness. "You've been busy for so long because you were working on this." Mo Ran smiled and said, "Does Shizun want to see it now?" Chu Wanning sat up, gathered his long black hair, and followed his disciple and said, "Yes." "What did you prepare?" "It's an extraordinary surprise," Mo Ran said and led Chu Wanning to their courtyard. Gaotu was sleeping soundly, its face was buried under its paws and it did not wake up. Mo Ran looked into his things, intending to dig out the box of thoughts where he had hidden it before. However, a scream pierced the silent night through the Nanping Mountains. "Where is it? Where's my box?" The dog continued to sleep peacefully. After all, wasn't there a saying that goes, "Let sleeping dog lie, ha 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 ha." After some time, Mo Ran closed his eyes and tried to recall what happened when he was Taxian Jun. After meditating for a long while, he finally recalled some fragments of memories. Tying up Zhangxi. Tricking Xuemeng to go inside the box. Catching Mei Hangxiu. It's over, it's all fucking over. Looking at his alarmed expression, Chu Wanning frowned and asked, "What's wrong?" Mo Ran put his hands on his head as he stammered, It seems that I did some very absurd things yesterday," he said as he continued to look around the house until he finally found the box of thoughts which was actually inside his sleeves. "Is this what you wanted to give to me?" "Originally, it was. And now I'm afraid I don't know what we would find inside." Mo Ran's throat became dry. He wanted to leave Chu Wanning and check out what's inside the box first, but now that he has already said some things, it was no longer appropriate to leave Shizun and enter the box alone at this time. He could only pray with all his heart that he didn't turn the box of thoughts upside down yesterday. He hardened his resolve and replied, "Now, I'm not sure how to explain. So anyways, why don't we get inside and have a look first?" When Mo Ran and Chu Wanning entered the box of thoughts, they were both shocked by what they found inside. Mo Ran was specifically flabbergasted. When he left before yesterday, everything still looked normal, but at this moment, the cottage was completely built and there were more glittering and excessive embellishments with it. In addition to a cloud that rained with flower petal, there were pink clouds and red mist, a field of wheat that waved and rolled about, plus a perpetual glittering night sky was up in the sky. Originally, everything here was interesting. The mountain and rivers were a perfect backdrop for an idle countryside cottage. Now, the place was filled with magnificent things that was not only contrasting in taste and colors, but also did not come together and seemed to have been put there for no rhyme or reason, at all. Where was the tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster? Was this how it liked things to look like? What's even more shocking was the 5 wooden stakes erected in the middle of the flower field of the small courtyard. On the stakes were the tied-up Jiangshi, Mei Hangxiu, Xuemeng, Elder Xianji and Elder Tanlang, which looked like 5 miserable scarecrows. Chu Wanning looked at the 5 people who looked like some macabre sacrificial offerings and haltingly asked, "This is the gift that you want to give to me?" The shocked Mo Ran instantly turned to Chu Wanning and vehemently denied, "Shizun. No. It wasn't like this before. I didn't do this. I." Before he could finish, a soft rice cake monster jumped from the roof. The tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster, flickered its small tail with bright blue lights, came out in a rush. It turned its head up, its eyes were flashing with stars and its 2 small claws were stretched as it ran towards Chu Wanning, calling out, "Venerable immortal divine wood." However, before it could reach and hug Chu Wanning, Mo Ran hoisted it up around its covered head. Mo Ran was shaking in rage, for what the hell's going on here? The tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster, didn't notice that Mo Ran's personality have switched again and very confusedly explained, "Then after the first exchange, you took another 4 highest level people and exchanged with high level items to add to the landscapes." Mo Ran put his hand on his forehead, feeling a headache coming. After a long silence, he finally understood. Suddenly he closed his eyes and wished he could kill himself with his own hands. What on earth did he do all day yesterday? Taxian Jun was obviously fighting for affection with himself again. He was a little lost for words. Meanwhile, Xuemeng, who was tied up to one of the wooden stakes, was madly shouting, "Mo Ran! You dog! What the hell are you doing? You better get me down." The tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster, twinkled its eyes and looked at Xuemeng and the rest of the scarecrows for a moment, then explained to Grandmaster Mo, "You did this about an hour ago. You caught 5 highest level people in total. You were afraid that they would make trouble, so you tied them up like that." Mo Ran. Xuemeng was still shouting, "Shizun! Shizun, save me!" Chu Wanning flicked his sleeves and said, "Look at what you've done." Afterwards, he immediately went forward and untied them one by one from the bondage of Taxian Jun. After everyone was released, Xuemeng rubbed his swollen wrist. He was feeling aggrieved and confused as he ranted, "Mo Ran! You, what the hell are you doing?" "Yes, explain." Elder Tanlang furiously added, "Why do you want us to come to this box?" He then glanced at the Osman, thus rice cake monster, and asked, "And is this tofu ghost thing?" The tyrant rice cake monster puffed up its chest and furiously shouted, "4 is a respected rice cake. 4 is not a tofu." Mei Hangxiu and Elder Xianji both remained silent, but their eyes were shooting inquiring glances at both Mo Ran and Chu Wanning. Jiangshi's face was very gloomy as he tidied up the expensive and delicate sleeves of his robes, then smoothed out the wrinkles one by one. Afterwards he raised his eyes, and said, "You'd better give this Jiang an explanation." Mo Ran raised his hands in a pacifying manner and awkwardly smiled as he said, This is just a misunderstanding, sorry." "Excuse me." Jiangshi sneered. "Does your sorry worth any money?" He narrowed his apricot eyes and said rudely, "Grandmaster Mo, do you know that I have a business to discuss with Wohuang sect today? I will compensate." You can pay 90 million golden leaves? Mo ran. Xuemeng was also angry. Didn't you say you wanted to surprise me? I thought it was. It's a birthday gift for me. In retrospect, it's embarrassing to say it again anyway. Xuemeng finally just said angrily, what on earth are you doing? Mo Ran was being questioned by the group of people left and right until gradually he became overwhelmed and could only apologize. These people have no personal quarrels with him, but they were indeed gravely wronged and deserved an explanation which Mo Ran didn't know how to give. Suddenly, they heard Chu Wanning spoke from the sideline. I apologize, everything was my fault. Everything suddenly became quiet and still amidst this countryside scenery. Only the tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster, was excitedly clacking and clapping its feet around Chu Wanning. Mo Ran turned back to him and said, Shizun. I will try to compensate everyone for their trouble and I hope you will forgive me. Xuemeng waved his hand and said, Shizun. Shizun, I don't mean that. I just thought. After that, he turned to Jiangxi and said, Hey. You can't make my Shizun pay 90 million golden leaves? Me and my Shizun don't have that kind of money. Jiangxi. The richest man in the cultivation world seemed to have ignored Xuemeng's words and only stared at Mo Ran for a while. Then, his sharp gaze turned towards to Chu Wanning. As soon as he opened his mouth to say something, Mo Ran moved and bodily blocked Chu Wanning from his gaze and said in a hurry, Sect leader Zhang, I will try to compensate you, but I have to ask you not to embarrass my Shizun today because... Mo Ran hesitated, his voice gradually faded down and finally whispered, because today, actually it's my Shizun's birthday. Jiangxi. He haven't have a good birthday celebration before, so for sect leader Jiang's loss, I will try to make up for it. I will personally go to Huohuang sect to apologize for everything. The young man stood between him and Jiangxi, almost pitifully asking, I'll do anything that sect Zhang asks, just let it go for tonight, will you? Today was Chu Wanning's birthday. The rest of the people present was shocked. Xuemeng was particularly downright stunned. His face was like gold paper, his lips opened and closed again and again for a long while, but he couldn't utter a single word. Meanwhile, Chu Wanning did not expect that Mo Ran would tell them about his birthday, that for a moment, he was at a loss for what to do. Finally, Elder Tanlang, who had always been blunt with Chu Wanning, broke the silence. Upon hearing Mo Ran, he crossed his arms on his chest and asked, Yu Heng, you. Did you send your disciple to abduct us for your birthday celebration? No. Tyrant Rice Cake Monster explained, its little claw pointed at Mo Ran, he catch you and you to exchange with for. Because highest level people can be exchanged for high level items to decorate the idyllic mountain cottage inside this fairy land. Xuemeng was shocked and asked, he took us to be exchanged. Mei Hangxiu touched his chin and said, no wonder every time a person comes in, a new magical item will appear. It was because of this. Only Jiangxi still felt incredibly angry. He flicked his sleeves and said, love is really a sickness. Looking at Mo Ran again, he diagnosed him without hesitation, Grandmaster Mo, don't you know how seriously and hopelessly sick you are? Mo Ran laughed and took Chu Wanning's hands and said, I don't think there's a cure for what I have. Jiangxi could hardly bear it. He turned his head away from the couple who was holding hands and went silent. He caught a glimpse of Xuemeng, who was staring at Chu Wanning. He seemed to be embarrassed that he, as his disciple, have almost missed his Shizun's birthday and was obviously feeling sorry for himself for not being able to give Chu Wanning any birthday gift. Although Jiangxi could be heartless and thought that Xuemeng was such a disgrace, he knew that this was not the right time to pick a fight with him. He took another look at Xuemeng and went silent for a while until he finally said, forget the 90 million golden leaves? Mo Ran. Xuemeng. There's no need to pay for it. It won't be not enough to shine my shoes anyways. Mei Hangxiu. Chu Wanning. Xuemeng, Just how dirty are your shoes? Jiangshi turned to look at him, his gaze as sharp as lightning. He sneered and said, "Sect leader Xue, please stop speaking lest everyone realize what a dumb man you are. You dash." Amidst the uproar, the whole story of this absurd farce was explained clearly, and the birthday of Chu Wanning was eventually known by these people. Although in the end they all said they would not tell this story nor tell others when was the birthday of the Baidu immortal, now that they have gathered, they would naturally stay to celebrate. According to Elder Xianji, this must also be fated. When the tyrant Osman, thus rice cake monster, saw the harmonious atmosphere between the people, it felt that it had somehow fulfilled the expectations of the rice cake village. It moved over happily, wanting to take part in the lively gathering, but Xuemeng turned around and stared at it. "Mo Ran, is this the little monster you said you saw in the back hill?" Mo Ran gave an embarrassed laugh and said, "Yes." Xuemeng felt his chin and looked at it carefully. "It's really made of sweet Osman, thus rice cake. I am the prettiest rice cake in our village." The tyrant rice cake flicked its blue tail lamp. "Coincidentally, I am the most handsome man in the lower cultivation world." Tyrant rice cake, "Oh, let's be friends then. Xuemeng, I want to cook you and eat you." The man and the monster both spoke at the same time. Upon realizing what Xuemeng said, the tyrant rice cake monster went still as it quickly retreated 2 steps back. It paused for a moment, turned around and ran while wailing, "Xuemeng is not For's friend. Ah! Help! Monster muncher! Why?" Xuemeng burst into laughter and finally revenged himself for being caught and tied up like a scarecrow. In this silent night, the old friends gathered inside the box of thoughts. Were they close? Well, not all of them have close friendship with Chu Wanning, but as Elder Xianji said, it was probably some kind of fate. In this case, since all of them were already there and there was no issue about making such noise in the middle of the night, they decided to spend the night in this fairyland, set off some fireworks and sat around the table in a lively manner and drink like there was no end to it. The golden lily pond provided the fish as the rice wind blew away the smoke from the stove. The millet was washed and shone like pearls and then boiled in a pot. The sweet fragrance of the meal drifted away between the ridges. In the kitchen, Mo Ran was preparing the meal, moving between boiling pot and stir-frying. The fire under the stove lit up when the pot was turned, reflecting his bright face. When he looked out, he saw Xuemeng and Chu Wanning were talking outside under the starry evening sky. Elder Xianji and Elder Tanlang were picking up fresh fruits within the fairy land. Jiangshi was walking in the field waiting for dinner to be ready. Mei Hangxiu was coaxing the fairies inside the flowering shrubs, teaching them how to play the Kunlun melody. Suddenly, Mo Ran felt glad. Although he was initially looking forward to having Chu Wanning all to himself this evening, his Shizun deserves more birthday wishes and the company of another friend or two. It seemed that the miscalculation brought about by his personality switch fulfilled this secret wish he had for Wanning. The box of thoughts provided everything he needed, like the fresh eels from the golden lotus pond. Mo Ran's smooth fingers touched the tender meat, cutting them into fine pieces looking like silk. The soup was boiling as he handled the fresh fish and shrimp. Suddenly, the bamboo curtain behind him moved as Chu Wanning came inside the kitchen. "Shizun just needs to wait a little longer. The food will be done soon. There's no hurry. I'll bring some cut melons and fruits to the courtyard first." Mo Ran smiled and said, "That's a good idea." Chu Wanning went to the corner of the kitchen to take some fresh and sweet fruits to put into a small bamboo basket when suddenly he found a porcelain jar with a seal on it in the same corner. On it was an embarrassingly crooked calligraphy that read "Happy Birthday." He took it and traced the brush strokes. It was obviously the calligraphy of Taxian Jun. Chu Wanning opened the seal of the pottery but could not tell what's inside it. He tentatively asked, "What is this?" Mo Ran went over to see, gave an odd expression and said with a smile, "Carmine pear blossom goose, it seems he successfully made it." "What is that?" It's a dish that Taxi and June had been working on. It takes quite a lot of time to make. First the goose meat has to be marinated in salt, then wrapped in lotus leaf and then steamed in a kettle. Then it needed to be cooled in spring water and then had to be frozen with ice water. Afterwards, it needs to be sealed and brewed with pear blossoms. He said that the goose meat can be taken out of the jar and the leftover was a fragrant wine, cool and good to drink. Moran took the goose meat, checked it out and smiled, looks like this one is ready. He's really not all bad. The said fat and rich goose meat was put on the ginkgo cutting board. With his fingertips on top of the full goose breast, he sliced the meat only to see that the cured meat was slightly pink, the flesh was rich and tender. Moran thought for a moment and said to Chu Wanning, "Shizun, can you please look in the cabinet again, there should be another jar with the sauce in it." Chu Wanning went and found a yellow glazed pot with seal on it. Written on it was another embarrassing calligraphy that read, "This venerable one is yours for the rest of your life." Chu Wanning shook his head, but inside his heart, he felt infinitely touched. He handed the pot to Moran and watched him ladle out the pickle sauce carefully prepared by Taxi and June yesterday. The sauce was poured over the cut meat. The combination of the sauce and the meat that was marinated with the wine produced a strong peculiar fragrance. Chu Wanning asked, "How did you come up with such a dish? Last summer when you felt that it was too hot, I once prepared you a dish. You only took a few bites of it. Do you remember that?" Chu Wanning remembered that time since it was not that long ago. Taxi and June patted his head and served him a number of delicacies. However, Chu Wanning was feeling lethargic due to the heat and couldn't eat much. Although Taxi and June did not say anything at that time, he did look disappointed that day. "I think it was sad that I can't even cook something that the person I love would like. So, I went out to look for a proper chef to teach me how to come up with such a dish." He looked at the prepared carmine pear blossom goose meat poured with sauce to be served with wine and said with some trepidation and hopeful expectations, "I hope Wanning would like it." Chu Wanning was quiet for a while, and then smiled. He put away the 2 notes left by yesterday's Moran. Then he picked up the plate of carmine pear blossom goose with the wine. The freshly cut meat was covered with rich thick sauce. Before leaving the kitchen to serve the dish, he turned to the handsome young man standing at the kitchen counter and said, "Thank you, Moran. Thank you for the past life, for your other personality and for your soul. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me the best birthday of my life. With my Shizun back then, the celebration at that time was not sincere. In the past, as your spouse, everything was so bitter that we could not even enjoy a full meal. Now that it was all over, I will always remember the day of my birth. When I was still at Wuobei Temple, I didn't know how the world was really like, nor did I know that there will be someone willing to spend their lives with me. But every year after that, I will accompany you. From now on, I'll be with you." The banquet was not that luxurious, but Moran's cooking was something that these people rarely enjoyed. He was that good of a cook. In the banquet table prepared for Chu Wanning, everything was delicious and exquisite. Even Jiangxi, who was accustomed to gourmet delicacies and seafood, opened his eyes slightly wider, clearly surprised upon sipping the wine. Jiangxi contemplated asking Moran to work for him as a cook in Gaiyuye and enticed him with a frightening salary offer. However, Jiangxi was a smart man. He took a look at Chu Wanning and swallowed the invitation back. He was a little nauseous and thought that during his lifetime, he must develop a medicine that could completely cut the roots of human relations. Love was really a serious illness. Just take this case of an extraordinary talented cook Moran who was being held back because of love. Forget it. It would be better to eat a few more pieces of this meat, as he might not get another chance to taste it in the future. Jiangxi lowered his eyes quietly and stretched his chopsticks gracefully but quickly. At the banquet, Xuemeng suddenly caught a glimpse of small white shadows flashing in the fields. He thought it was just his imaginations. He rubbed his eyes and looked closely. He was so stunned that he could not even make an ah sound and instead exclaimed, "SHIZUN'S rice cake monsters." They were running very fast, some were peeping among the grasses, fields, ridges and rocks, doing their human observation thing. However, they were very reluctant to be seen by these humans, so they only shook their blue-lighted tails, making a slight creaking sound. Only the self-proclaimed prettiest rice cake, the tyrant rice cake monster, stood on top of the tree where Shuemeng couldn't reach it and translated the words that the fey creatures wanted to convey. Unfortunately, although the words were in human language, it was badly translated. "Immortal divine wood, happy joyful day." Shuemeng stared at it and said, "Shouldn't it birthday? Do you want a gift?" 4 is proficient in human language. Verbose words are not wrong, very standard. Mei Hangxiu laughed and held on to Shuemeng, who was having a shouting match with the tyrant rice cake monster. "You don't understand. It's really hard to practice the local language. Don't laugh at it. It's a lovely rice cake." Shuemeng looked back at him again and said, "If you want to say something, don't pull me." In the midst of the ruckus, the SHIZUN'S rice cake monsters on the opposite hill ignited fireworks of the fey kind. The brilliant fireworks exploded in the night. In the starry sky, the colorful fire flowers were scattered all over the mountains. Elder Xianji saw the situation and felt that the atmosphere was just right. He raised his wine and smiled at Chu Wanning and said, "Yuheng, happy birthday." Chu Wanning, who only knew how to respond to battle cries, went still and didn't know how to respond. After a while, he unexpectedly replied, "Same to you." Elder Xianji could only stare with widely opened eyes. He wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. "Happy birthday." Elder Tanlang grunted. "Thank you very much." Mei Hangxiu wanted to give his wishes next but was dragged back by Shuemeng, and who then rushed to say, "Me first. Me first. Shizun. Wish you a happy life, peace, and joy. Please come and see me as well at the Shisheng Peak." "Naturally, I will come. I missed your other birthdays before. A month ago, Mo Ran has already prepared your..." Before the word gift was uttered, he was interrupted by a loud coughing from Mo Ran. Chu Wanning tried to backtrack. "I meant, nothing was prepared." It was a well-known fact that the #1 Grandmaster in the cultivation world was a poor liar. It would have been better if he didn't say anything more. Zhang Shi also turned towards him, nodded his head slightly and said, "Grandmaster Chu, Baidu Immortal, best wishes." Shuemeng pouted, put his arms across his chest and said, "Best wishes? That's all you're offering? Why aren't you giving money?" After everyone gave their birthday wishes, Chu Wanning felt embarrassed as he wasn't used to it. No, it should be said that he did not know how to accept such blessings. After all, he never got them before. At this moment, Mo Ran quietly grasped his hand under the table, which was sweaty due to nervousness. Mo Ran laughed in his heart. Sure enough, his Shizun showed a calm face on the outside, but deep inside, even his fingertips were trembling. He clasped Chu Wanning's hand tightly and slotted their fingers together as he tried to deliver the tenderness he felt through their clasped hands, slowly smoothing Chu Wanning's uneasiness. Mo Ran looked at him. Amidst the blowing wind that made the wheat waves, under the sparkling starry night, in the drifting flowering rain and magnificent fireworks, he solemnly said, "It's all right." Mo Ran burst into laughter, and the dark purplish eyes carried the deep feelings of the 2 lifetimes. This time, under the brilliant stars and flowing rivers. "I wish you happy birthday and joy for the rest of your life." After so many years, the 2 lifetimes have intertwined. Under the brilliance and sparkling fireworks, Mo Ran's eyes were bright and moist. His face was filled with the sincerity of Grandmaster Mo, the intensity of Taxian Jun, and the gentleness and obedience of the young man who was standing in front of the sky-reaching pagoda. They have walked side by side for 2 lifetimes, and finally came to this idyllic fairy house besides a flowing river. At Nanping Mountains, the distant sound of the evening temple could be heard as 2 lifetimes crossed each other. Their misfortunes have passed, but their fates were still entangled as they remained inseparable. Things had eventually calmed down. Mo Ran regretted the years that he didn't realize that Chu Wanning was his whole reason for being and that he was the only one he needed in order to live a peaceful life. This wish of happy birthday and joy for the rest of your life was something Mo Ran knew he would tell Chu Wanning all his life. Even when it's snowy and frosty, he would keep this flame alive. The same way that Chu Wanning kept him. They may not be the best people in the world nor the most beautiful people, the richest people, the greatest, the most powerful and broad-minded people, but for Mo Ran, there could be no one else but Chu Wanning. The same was true for Chu Wanning. No matter what facets of Mo Ran, what kind of personality, what kind of life, no argument was needed. Those were the souls that have gone through ups and downs together with him. They were the wounded and fragmented souls of the lover who wanted to protect him, deeply loved him, took care of him and spoiled him. For the rest of my life, I have given all that I have and I would gladly continue to give all that I have. I love you. The end of the extra, Fighting for Affection.